Montel here, and thanks so much for tuning in to this edition of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. And I am so psyched and excited to have the guest that we have with us today. She's a cannabis influencer. She's a music photographer and journalist. And in a world that's consumed by A-list celebrity media and viral campaigns, it makes you wonder, who are the people behind the content that everybody loves so much? Well, it's no question that they're definitely behind the content that's provided by this lady, and she's the Detroit-based influencer Jessica Golich. Experienced significant success in photography and being a photographer for musicians and covering large festivals like Coachella, but she's also had an appetite for life, and her appetite for life has been consumed by so many people right now, and they love everything and every bit of content she puts out. So I got to say, thanks so much, Jessica Golich, for being a part of Let's Be Blunt with Montel today. Thank you so much for being here, girlfriend.
Thank you so much, Montel, for having me. It's truly an honor.
And as we get started, Jessica, why don't you tell me a little bit about that cool shirt that you're wearing right there?
Thank you. Yeah, so it says, if you want to change the system, speak up. White silence is pro-racism. And it's something that I strongly believe in. I'm really proud to see the Black Lives Movement transform the way society operates. And Russ is a rapper who creates a lot of conscious music, and he tags up with a designer named Kid Super. And all the proceeds for these shirts go to Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, okay. Well, make sure. What website can they go to buy one?
You can go on Kid Super's website. He has a full website, and I believe that it is sponsored right up top, and they just added hoodies too.
Okay. All right. So go to, say his name again.
Kid Super, KIDSUPER.
Okay. The kidsuper.com, going up there and get yourself a t-shirt and support Black Lives Matter. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Now, look, let's talk a little bit about, you started off as a photojournalist, but you kind of started off in an odd way. Why don't you tell us about how you've blown into this huge influencer that you are?
Yeah, it really has been a transformative 5 years. So I began by answering a random Craigslist ad to be a music journalist. I noticed that they were looking for people centered in Detroit to sort of expand their outreach to cover local shows. I had no experience in journalism whatsoever. And I thought, okay, I've been writing poetry my whole life. I'm really good with words. Therefore, how can I transform this into an opportunity to potentially create a career? So I answered that pitch. And in the midst of being able, I was able to capitalize on the opportunity for working for a major publication. And in doing so, I created a network with a lot of different music publicists, and they were able to provide me access to a variety of shows and access to a lot of talent to interview. And in doing so, I built a reputation for making sure to keep the interviews aligned with the human element beyond just their typical press run. And through doing so, I was able to build out a music section entirely on this publication and really build a rapport for myself. And what I've been able to experience in 5 years, Montel, is crazy. It's a life in itself, and it's something I'm forever grateful for.
I mean, you've been interviewing some of the best, the biggest and greatest and best, from Britney Spears to Justin Timberlake to Snoop Dogg. I'm working on a project with Snoop Dogg's company right now myself. But go ahead, be a name dropper. Tell me some of the other names you work with.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've worked with like Snoop Dogg, the Chainsmokers, 30 Seconds to Mars, Brad Paisley, Keith Urban, Greta Van Fleet, who I'm dear friends with. I love those guys. They're very conscious, very, very, very mindful of their position of privilege and use it to their advantage for the whole world. Who else? Let's see. Tons of rock bands. Poison, Styx, Korn, Breaking Benjamin.
You've got a job that I'm telling you, I think most people would just dream of being able to sit in the same room with some of these people. And I mean, and you get close, you get up and personal with them, you get to ask them personal questions, and they really, really, really take to you. What do you think is your little, little in that nobody else has?
It's the human element. It's ensuring that I keep in mind that they are a human being, no matter what they've accomplished, and look at them as such beyond their accolades. And in doing so, it creates a more intimate connection immediately. And that intimate connection leads to a broader awareness of what their privilege is, and then they spill the beans.
Do you go and see them when you go to a concert? Do you go and see them first before the concert and say, hey, how you doing? Look, I'm going to cover you, but I'll get an interview with you later. And then you let them do the concert and then you interview them later? Or do you just hang out with them the whole time?
It depends. So it depends on really the relationship that I have with their publicist. But if I have a good relationship with their publicist, I typically have that opportunity. For instance, do you mind me sharing a story, a pretty good
Please
story?
do. Yeah.
Cool. So I was at Coachella, and as a freelance journalist, being accepted for a member of the media was life changing. And while I was there, I had a really good relationship with a publicist who was able to give me access to a touring band that came from Japan that is legendary. Their name's X Japan. And I was able to sit down with them and have a full conversation backstage at Coachella, and their whole posse. Everybody was around them, but it was so intimate while the whole festival was happening behind me. It felt so, it was a dream, literally a dream come true.
Wow. Wow. And so, I mean, I get you, just appearance and your personality would set people at ease to begin with. But now you've kind of shifted, not only in covering bands and music, but now you've become an influencer in the same space that I love, and that's the cannabis space. That's why we're here. Let's be blunt. Well, what started you down that path?
What started me down that path was personal self-discovery. I was beginning to experiment more with cannabis, medicinal cannabis in Michigan, and realizing the self-discovery and the intuitive elements that were coming out of me through cannabis use. It was, my creativity was flowing in a way I'd never experienced. And I realized that I was building a deep, sacred connection with cannabis, and I wanted to share it with the world. I was building this platform. I wanted to transform it to ensure that I was still maintaining the music element, but adding another element that was part of me. And cannabis just became a major part of my everyday life, and it transformed who I am as a human being in so many ways that I love to share that with the world. And I love to share how it's put me more in tune with myself.
Now, did you start your journey because of an underlying medical condition, or did you start your journey just being a partaker of adult use?
Partaker of adult use. And that's a good question, because I've really done some research on your journey as well and how it's really helped you medicinally cure yourself. And I think that it's medicinally to help me cure myself mentally in many ways that isn't on paper. It isn't approved by a doctor.
Well, I've been one to say that almost anyone who is drawn to cannabis, say, and instead of being drawn to alcohol in an adult use world, really is being drawn there because they have an underlying issue that they've been dealing with that cannabis seems to assuage. So not that your issue has to be so extremely medical, but even if it's just anxiety, or if it's just a matter of not being able to sleep well, if it's not a matter of being able to focus well. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of our greatest artists of our past years were cannabis users.
And have been. And I think artists even prior to our past years. And now that it's becoming a lot more commonly accepted throughout modern media, we're seeing it being used publicly even more. And I think that's so important, seeing the public perception shift, because that provides so many opportunities for entrepreneurs, for businesses to open, you name it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people. I'm going to tell you, Let's Be Blunt has a really broad audience. We have almost every age demographic that there is. And a lot of people are trying to understand what this term influencer means. And I mean, you are one of those. Why don't you explain to us what you think influencer means?
I think an influencer is an energy, and I think it's the energy that you're able to convey to the community that you build. And through your passion, it naturally comes through creatively through both your content, the way that you speak, the way that you live. Being an influencer is a lifestyle. Knowing that this supplement to my life, this plant has enhanced my life, my daily wellness so much, intrigued me even more to want to take my business to the next level in brand. Therefore, utilizing the influencer space was the best bet in 2020.
Okay, and what do you want to achieve? Like, let's say 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What's your plan in utilizing your platform to make a difference, and especially in your generation's lives?
So I've been able to use cannabis therapeutically in so many different ways. Like you said, it's helped me with my anxiety, with sleep, with brain function, cognitive function, you name it. And in doing so, I've been able to learn and study a lot about how cannabis can continue to help others and how it helps my mother, how it helps my dad. And taking that education and putting it into a product line is my next step. And that's what I really look forward to. And I recently did sign a deal with a brand, and we're moving forward with building out my own cannabis line. And I cannot wait to be part of every part of the process, from learning to grow, market, you name it.
Well, that's probably, I got to tell you, just this little piece of touch of advice from me is make sure that you become your own expert. You don't need an expert to tell you what it is you want to do. You tell them what it is you want to do and make them manufacture a product to meet your standards. And of course, one of the most important things in this is making sure that you put in produce a product that's efficaciously safe and sound. And, unfortunately, there's a lot of manufacturers out there that are still using techniques that are trying to cut corners and trying to, see if they can, produce a large, good quality product. And
it's similar to growing fruit is what I tell other people. So think about it from this way. You're putting pesticides on this fruit to mass produce for others to consume to fuel your bottom line. The cannabis industry, as it becomes more of a medical product, is going to be portrayed as such, from my perception, down the line.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you're looking at it that way. And anytime I can be of any help for you, you let me know, and I'll reach out immediately and give you some tips. And I'm working on a couple of things right now myself that I think are going to be revolutionary in the cannabis industry. There's some ways.
I've used your products. I've used Select.
Thank you.
I've used Select a lot, and I carry some of the disposables with me, and I didn't know that was the product that you were invested in until I did further research. And I know that you had a brand as well.
In fact, Select was my contract manufacturer and was actually producing a product that we were at in the marketplace called Montel. I am right now in the process of changing manufacturers, and I'll have new product in the marketplace within the next few months. But right now, you can still get my CBD product, in the mail. If you just go up on montelwilliams.com, you can find my CBD product. And our CBD product, again, and I've been involved in this now for 20 years, long before this was vogue, long before there was a green rush and people decided to jump on board a bandwagon. I was literally in the streets trying to see if I can ensure passage of legislation to allow patients to have a private conversation with their doctors. But I've been so concerned, and initially, early back, 20 years ago, I was concerned because a lot of the manufacturers were using techniques that were just, I think, really detrimental.
In a way.
Oh, yeah, really. You can't call something medical or medicine and you're using something that's detrimental to people's health. And so I was trying my best to at least get us to convert over to less caustic ways to extract the product. And now I'm working with and talking to some of the top leading doctors and scientists in the world, and understanding that there's a lot more out there. Even like right now, recently, there's some articles that are being written right now that talk about, the very, very powerful antioxidant attributes of some of the cannabinoids that we're not even mostly talking about in this industry. Everybody got caught up in CBD.
Here's my perception of that. You, from what I've studied, have a strong knowledge of nutrition as well and how that affects your body. You have strong knowledge of the overall system and how our body works, and self-knowledge as well. Taking that to ensuring that your product is safe and meets your standards is going to be something you do, period, because you won't allow that on the market unless it does. And that, to me, is integrity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate that for you. And I will also tell you that, your product that you put out on a daily basis when you're just talking about cannabis and you're talking about the cannabis experience is just as powerful as what I'm trying to do, because you're spreading the word. It's like, remember that old book we read when we were in elementary school called Johnny Appleseed. Let's all be Johnny Appleseed. Make sure we know that, way back, there was a reason why an apple a day kept the doctor away. There's a reason why cannabis every day can help keep the doctor away, because we know that
and the same
components.
apple that we ate 50 years ago is not the same apple that we're eating today, because it's manufactured differently.
Correct. We got apples right now. A lot of people don't even know that green apple that you see on the shelf in, December and January and February probably was grown last January and February and has been frozen and stuffed away in chemicals for a year. and then thaw it and put it on the shelf to make it look like it's brand new. So we got to
And
really
don't even get me started on how you're paying for packaging as well. But something that I'm really passionate about as well, and I know you are too, I live a predominantly raw vegan lifestyle, and I really think that enhances my cannabis experience too. What is your perception of how nutrition does enhance?
Oh, I'm no ifs, ands, or buts. You know, I'm one of those cyclers. I am constantly doing intermittent fasting. I do that.
Oh yeah, me too.
That's a part of my everyday life. But I kind of go 3 months on vegan, 3 months off, 3 months on, 3 months
Oh,
off, which
cool.
is not necessarily the best either. I'm not going to tell this to people and tell people that that's a routine
But
that they
what
should
works for
follow.
you?
But it works for me. It's helped me to be able to maintain the inflammation levels in my body and be able to keep it. Now, I'd love to be able to go vegan 100%. Unfortunately, this COVID thing just smacked me right upside the head because I can't go to the grocery store and shop myself. I have to have food delivered, and when it's delivered, I don't trust the person making a choice for me when they go up and down the vegetable rack. So,
isn't that something? As I know that there's so many different ways that society has created convenience through different apps and delivery systems. But that's correct. I love going to the market and picking out my own fresh, juicy produce because I know that's what I'm fueling my body, my energy, my soul with, you know?
absolutely. And I'm glad you shared. Do you talk a lot about that on your podcast, or when you?
I don't have my own podcast yet. I don't talk about that on my platform, but I do look forward to incorporating that when I feel 100% ready. I continue to educate myself. This is my lifestyle. I've lived this way since I was 19 or so. I'm 30 now. And through doing so, I've become a more cultivated, worldly human being. And I really, really attribute that to nutrition and cannabis.
No, that's so good. That's so good. Do you share that with some of the talent that you get to interview?
You know what? You're influencing me to want to share even more. I haven't. No, I really haven't. And that's something of my life that I know, and that knowledge can help transform others. And I look forward to reflecting and seeing that a bit more and bringing it forward.
I mean, only as a suggestion because you actually get to sit in those private dressing rooms with some of the biggest influencers in the world right now. People who have platforms that go on that break borders. And so, just think about it. If you were sitting in a room with Britney Spears, and to take 2 minutes to say, "Oh, Britney, by the way, if you really want to accentuate the plumpness of your skin, is something that you want to consider when it comes to nutrition."
And I'm well aware that that's an inner system. If you want your skin to be more vibrant, it definitely is what you consume, not what you're putting on topical. Thank you for this. This is really inspiring.
A facelift from inside. I mean, I talk about it all the time. Like I'm a huge consumer of coconut water. I probably drink a quart of it a day, and I've been doing that now for well over 15 years. And I've been doing that because what people don't understand is it's a facelift from inside.
And it's an energy lift. It's a spirit lift. It's a daily wellness practice that is a lifestyle, truly. And every morning I wake up raw green juice to ensure that I'm centered, grounded, and it helps my cells just come alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And what people don't understand is that, I mean, even back during World War II, coconut water was used as for blood plasma because coconut water is only about 3 molecules off your blood plasma. So that's a very interesting thing. It can sustain life by being pumped into your blood vessels, but at the same time, it helps to hydrate your cells. So it actually permeates the same way that we now know cannabinoids work in a very unique way inside of our bodies, especially at the cellular level. Very well.
That's a cellular level.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know very well that we have the endocannabinoid system, which is a system that we were born with. That is made up of multiple cannabinoids that we actually create ourselves. We don't even have to have external cannabinoids. So it's really important that info gets put out there. So I'm glad you're doing that and you're working on it. Tell me a little bit about your TikTok world.
Thank you. So TikTok has definitely been a transformative world in itself. I began by getting a cold email from a third party asking me if I wanted to join a new social network. My perception was, yeah, sure. Why not grow my network? I live and love social media. Let's see what this is about. I went on, tried to see what was going on. And then I said, I'm going to build out a niche. And then In doing so, I was able to showcase all the backstage footage, all the front row footage, and built a world through it. Right now, I'm sort of transforming it into incorporating more of my personality and my experiences. And now you've influenced me to hopefully do some cooking videos and showcase different nutrients and how they could help you throughout. Yet TikTok has changed my life. The algorithm on there is so accessible to the public, and you really are able to grow organically through a network in a way that no other network provides right now.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And so you've got plans for expanding your TikTok profile.
Yes, and I am doing so right now, and it's working. I've been doing a lot of just voiceover stuff and skits because that's what TikTok's really about. Hopefully learning to dance a little bit more, and it just showcased more of my day-to-day me. And in doing so lately, it's been positive. My audience has been growing.
That's so great. Is this part of what's you're doing with Life Beyond the Music?
Yeah. So Life Beyond the Music, I launched a independent publication after being with the major publication for about 2.5, 3 years. I knew that it was time to take it my own route. I learned the back end skills. I learned how to build a website. I learned how to host everything. So I said, okay, I'm going to take the summer off and do this. I spent the whole summer making sure that I did the Google SEO search, making sure I picked the perfect name for what would stand out for me. Like I said previously, what I've done with interviews is making sure to pull out the human element. So Life Beyond the Music, showcasing within the interviews that we're showing them more than what the music is for the artist, has been so great. I was able to interview a whole new batch of artists, a whole new world through the publicist relationships I've had previously, and taking those into Life Beyond the Music just expanded my network even more. I'm so blessed.
No, I can imagine that. A lot of the celebs that you do talk to don't often get an opportunity to talk about what their life is like beyond the music, and so you give them that platform to do that, right?
Yeah, and some are shell-shocked, Montel, which is crazy to me because it's sad that not sad, it's an opportunity for growth with the modern media that the showcase is only on what's going to pull the bottom line. But if you continue to dive into the human element, the viewers are going to be more intrigued to learn more about them, and they're going to be more bought into their brand, period.
Absolutely. Look, I tell you what, I got to take a little break. I got to pay a couple bills, and that's what you'll find out is happening in the podcast world. But I'm here with Jessica Golich, and thank you so much for being here. And for all of you out there listening and tuned in, don't go away. I'm going to pay a couple bills. I'll be back right after this. Well, welcome back to Let's Be Blunt with Montel, and thank you so much for tuning in today. And we've been talking to one of the top A-list influencers in the world, and that is Jessica Golich, who's a photographer and journalist who gets to spend a lot of time interviewing and talking to a lot of our top musical talent in the world, but also has become, one of the top cannabis influencers, I think, out there right now. So thanks so much, Jessica, for being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm so humbled by what you just said, and it's an honor to share your space.
No, absolutely. Look, you were right before the break, you were talking about the fact that you had just started this whole new process, which is Life Beyond the Music. You've been doing interviews like that. Why don't you share, if you can, I want people to go and find the publication and read it there. Why don't you give us a couple of stories about, someone that shocked you when you asked them questions about Life Beyond Music?
I've been really excited to tell this story. So I sort of briefly told on TikTok. I had the opportunity recently to photograph Snoop Dogg at his concert. I didn't think it would turn out to an opportunity to shoot his whole meet and greet from the whole day within the day after. So I went to the Snoop Dogg concert and took the photos. It was a great time. Tons of photographers in the pit. So put my photos online, turned out great. I got a call saying that Snoop Dogg was in town the next day and they needed photographers there. So I immediately got ready, went to where the event was, and was able to spend the entire day personally photographing Snoop Dogg with all his fans, everyone at the meet and greet. It was beautiful. But what stood out the most to me was how humble, grounded, and kind Snoop Dogg was. To me, I've been blessed to be amongst a lot of really A-list celebrities. And through doing so, you see a lot of different personalities. With artists all over the world, you see different personalities. To me, Snoop Dogg just lives and loves it. And it was so visible. And Montel, I'll say this candidly, it was the day after Kobe Bryant's death. and them two being such dear friends, and him recognizing, I am Snoop Dogg, I committed to this event, I'm going to go for it, period. And that, to me, that human element really stuck with me. It gives me chills talking about it. He did not leave. That place was packed, and he would not leave until everybody really was able to mingle.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were you able to ask many questions that surprised you for the Beyond the Music?
I was able to talk to him more in depth, but he was really focusing in on the fans, and I was really just video and filming a lot. But any conversation, everything was so nice. Like, do you want water, this, that? He was really courteous of knowing that everybody's there for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anything else stand out in the Beyond the Music?
Let's see, Life Beyond the Music. Yes, the Forbes event. So I got invited to Forbes Under 30 event to photograph it, and that was crazy. It was everybody, a ton of like athletes were there, entrepreneurs, just investors, celebrities, and it was so diverse. And it gave me an opportunity to photograph Serena Williams, Kevin Durant, and that to me was crazy. They were so kind to, and Kevin Durant really spilled some beans about his business acumen, about how he built his different businesses that he has beyond basketball. And that was really provided a lot of value for me too.
Wow, that's really good. Really good. Now, you live in Detroit, right?
I do.
Now, were you able to participate in any of the Black Lives Matters movement in Detroit?
Yeah, I was outside with some of the protests, and I took a ton of photos, and I have some videos, and I was actually able to meet a lot of up and coming leaders in Detroit that are doing a lot of good.
So, and you know, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you your take. What is your take on just the social climate of America today? What's your take? And maybe I'm going to ask it in two ways. What's your take of your generation's response? And because you said you're 30, so you're on the other side of Generation Z. You're right at the, you're at the tail end of what generation do you call yourself?
I haven't really put myself in that title. I feel like I say that so respectfully. I understand that that's like the standard way, but I think that there's an old soul mentality to me that really, I just don't want to put myself in that box. But to the question that you asked, I really think our social climate is in a place of being able to create transformative change, but we're not there yet. We're pushing forward. The protests have been beautiful. The murals, the community, the communal spirit coming together, seeing people of all different colors really root for the freedom and the justice that Black people deserve. And this is coming from a very, very privileged Arabic American human being. I recognize my privilege, and it's my right. I mean, it's my social responsibility to take care of our friends and family. I grew up in a neighborhood that had I was surrounded by so many Black people, so many Arabic people, so much culture. And that is what made me cultivated as a human being. I really, really commend my parents for putting me and sticking me into that atmosphere, because it's been able to allow me to approach conversations with any walk of life and realize that they are simply a human being. And that is where I think that if society is able to shift to that point, that is justice. But that's going to take a lot of work.
A lot of work. But you think, are we headed in the right direction? Because, I mean, I think as we still maintain, those who are in power, who seem to want to be fighting again. Years ago, I used to say, and I don't say this in a derogatory against one individual. I use the term to represent a mindset. But I have said for the last 7 or 8 years that this is the last stand of the redneck. I mean, there are people just like if it was the Alamo, they are ready to fight to the death to keep the walls built the way they are. So there are people out here right now that are fighting us right now to the death and would prefer to fight us to the death to keep this status quo of hate and bigotry alive in America. Do you think that there's a force that's strong enough right now in your generation and in your age group to overcome this group?
Yes. And we have to continue to fight for that and make the change in November. And here's my portrayal of what you just said. I think that with the redneck aspect, the subconscious behaviors that they are putting in portrayals of their beliefs throughout their homes. And you're driving through a neighborhood and you see just tons of their political beliefs planted on their lawns. To me, okay, if a mind's not really mindful of what's going on, they're driving in their car, they're subconsciously consuming that. You don't really see other people that are voting the other way, portraying that on their lawns visibly like that. That's what we need to be careful of. That to me is danger.
Absolutely. And so I wonder, how do we get those on the side of trying to change the status quo to recognize the fact that they need to do a little bit more of subliminal messaging themselves? I mean, I think you get to do it yourself as an influencer, because you don't have to hit somebody in the head with a hammer to make them think. But how do we get the masses to do this?
I think that right now the artists continuing to step forward with murals, painting their feelings, painting their emotions of how this has personally affected their lives, the bigotry and the mental poverty that they've experienced by being racially profiled their entire lives, coming out and showcasing that, those subconscious reminders, that's what we need. We need more of art murals showcasing their belief systems to push us forward and make sure that somebody's out of office in November.
I'm telling you now, clearly you must be doing as much as you can through your outlet to make sure we get out the vote, right?
Oh my gosh, I have been pushing, Montel. I won't stop. I think that really we need that our world needs it. It's not even just the country now. Our world needs him out.
Absolutely. I think, we're especially every single day, it seems as if he just steps on it more and more and more and more, and shows truly who he is and who he has always been.
He's one of the most, if not the most dangerous, one of the most dangerous people alive, because he is so narcissistic in a way that, and consumed with his own belief systems, that how are someone in such a position of power and privilege to not be able to sit down and have a debate, a true debate, and be receptive of another's belief systems, not necessarily consume it, but be receptive and respectful of it.
Yeah, just to be able to hear it. Absolutely. So what do we see in the future right now? What's coming down the pike that we all should be looking forward to?
Oh, thank you. With me, like I said, building out the cannabis line, I cannot wait to begin that. We're beginning with the influencer work, but I cannot wait to see the product being fulfilled and continuing to build out with this brand that I partner with, that I look forward to making an announcement about soon.
Great. And that'll be nationwide, or are you going to do separate it into medical cannabis with THC and then a CBD line or a hemp line? What are you thinking about doing?
It's definitely going to be based in Michigan for right now. And as for the rest of logistics, I haven't had that figured out yet.
Okay. As you know, again, when it comes to, you can right now, because of the recent farm bill, we can sell hemp products, broad spectrum hemp products across the board, across multiple state lines. It's the THC products that we have to sell within our own individual states, because it has to be grown there and processed there, right?
Yep.
So you probably start your THC line in
Michigan.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, I have very good friends in Michigan, so I'll make sure I reach out to some of them and let them know to expect your line coming. Do you have a name for it already?
My interest of naming it is High Vibrational by Jessica Golich.
Oh, there you go. High vibration. That sounds really good. Well, look, I can't thank you enough, Jessica, for being here and sharing with our Let's Be Blunt audience. I mean, I know that they're going to really appreciate the fact that you've been here with us today. And I can't tell anytime you want to come back, if you want to come back when the line is ready, please come back, because I'd love to be able to have you on. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
If you come up with a good CBD product, you can send a little bit my way. I'll sample it for you and make sure everybody in my world knows that it's there.
When it all comes out, Montel, I'd love to send it all to you. But thank you so much for your time and for allowing me onto the show. It's truly an honor.
Absolutely. And again, we know now that, and I'm going to make this as the last comment, but we know that cannabis does affect our lives in ways that people don't even have the slightest idea. It can affect us in a positive way. So I want to make sure that all those out there, make sure you listen to Jessica's. Now, how do they get Well, how do they read about what you put out? What do they have to get? Is there a website?
The best bet would be to look at my Instagram, Jessica X Golich, and that really, all the captions really showcase my portrayal of justice, cannabis becoming legal, federally legal. There's so much that I talk about, and within those words, I hope that it inspires you to continue your journey of self-discovery, and hopefully that includes cannabis.
There you go. Could not be better said. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you all so much for joining us on this edition of Let's Be Blunt.